fatal heart impacts, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're discreet out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kiru's show here. And now, whenever we last left off, we had Izuku Midoriya and his battle in the United States. Now, this battle, Midoriya unknowingly helped the Brotherhood of Mutants, and with their cause. After Kitty pried from an alternate timeline, sent her mind back into a past version of herself, she tried to stop her future from happening, and the events that would eventually lead up to them. Now, with this, she was able to successfully stop the assassination of a man who would be instrumental in preventing her future. However, just because she saved that man doesn't mean her future was not set in stone. There is a possibility it changed. However, we cannot be too certain. But there was also Midoriya's fight against Sunspot. Now, everyone around the world saw this battle. A battle between children with superpowers. Both can fly, shoot energy, and were against each other and highly durable. Now, these combinations do not sound bad, until you realize that these two children, throwing a tantrum against each other, almost leveled a city block and caused massive amounts of damage, in comparison to the adults that were with them. Now, this is a very scary thought, and it put the idea in the heads of a lot of people around the world, that if a mutant wanted to, whenever their powers reach full maturity, could they take over the world? Now, the Brotherhood of Mutants, this is what they wanted. This is the spark that will light the fire, and lead up to the world they want to create. Now, with all that out of the way, let us cut to a few days later, with Izuku Midoriya. Now, Midoriya has been out of it ever since Charles had to shut down his brain in order for him to regain control over his abilities. Now, Midoriya, he actually is floating. Not in the air. He feels like he's floating in the darkness. And he finds it to be quite peaceful. The world in between worlds. The very place his power comes from. He finds it to be calm. And he does have his eyes closed. Now, as Midoriya is somewhat floating there, with his eyes closed, picture this. A giant monster, with its hand directly underneath Midoriya. If it wanted to, it can snatch him up within seconds, and consume him. And you would basically, if you were to open your eyes, you would somewhat see what you would see in the picture. However, more close, and massive. Towering over you as if he were a simple skyscraper in front of an ant. Now, Midoriya is pulled out of the void whenever he opens his eyes. As soon as he does, he immediately jumps upwards. And as soon as he does actually jump upwards, we do have his parents, who immediately go to grab onto their son, and try to make sure he is okay, bombarding him with questions about what happened. Now, Midoriya is confused, as he immediately can recall the entire battle, and he looks over to see everyone in the room. Charles Xavier, Jean Grey, Colossus, and Logan, along with many other different X-Men heroes, including Colossus and Emma Frost. Now, this is all quite surprising, and Midoriya just does begin to list off their names, surprising everyone. Midoriya then actually turning his head and seeing Kitty Pryde, his friend. Before he does this, look up at the ceiling, and Kirk does actually poof in. Him looking down at Midoriya is quite surprised that he already knows he's here. Before Midoriya, he does just look back at the heroes and ask them exactly what happened. That's strange. Midoriya, are you okay? Listen, we knew it was a bad idea to enroll you here. Jeez. The X-Men, it's quite dangerous. You shouldn't have taken him along. Them basically ridiculing Professor X for what he did. He literally took a child to a battlefield across the planet. Is he insane? Now, they did have to explain to him about the incident. And it isn't too hard to believe, considering the fact that we have cosmic beings running around, like Galactus, the Silver Surfer, and many others. Now, they are still somewhat annoyed that they were not informed or at least had this get brought up to them. And they did have to explain. They had to act on it fast. And he's very sorry about that. Now, with that, we do have Emma Frost, Jean Grey, and Charles Xavier. All of them actually do somewhat step forwards and ask Midoriya about his powers. And exactly, does he remember going, well, somewhat berserk? Him kind of surprised by the question. He can remember up to a certain point. However, afterwards, he does just remember alarms going off in his head. And that was whenever his brain was shut down by Charles. Now, he does somewhat say that he doesn't remember. All he remembers is a massive headache. And Charles does actually begin talking. Him holding out his hand to Midoriya, as Emma and, well, Jean Grey do both put their hands on each one of Charles's shoulder. And Charles does go on explaining that he would like to understand a bit more about Midoriya's abilities. And he can look inside his head and see what he might truly be capable of. Now, this is quite surprising. And Midoriya, he does nervously go to reach out, find out what he's truly capable of, the upper limits to his power. This is crazy. It's insane. It's everything I want. Now, with that, Midoriya does actually go to reach out, and he touches Charles' hand. Every one of them all looking in the air, as complete silence. Now, after a minute or so, Charles, he actually snaps back to reality, and he's flung across the room. Now, this actually does surprise everybody, as Midoriya is still standing there with his hand outstretched, before looking back over at Charles. Instead of him lowering his head to see the man in front of him, he lowers his head to see the man all the way across the room. And Charles is somewhat just laying there, with a look of shock all over his face, and a nosebleed. Now, They all do somewhat try and ask Charles if he is alright, and they do actually go to help him get back in his chair. However, Charles does try and keep his composure. However, his voice is shaky, and you can tell that it isn't alright. Something clearly happened here, and they intend to know what it was. Now, Emma Frost and Jean Grey, they actually do both look down at Midoriya and explain to him that with his telepathic, empathic, and technopathic abilities, they will need to teach him how to use those. Midoriya being surprised and being able to actually look at both of them before he does actually ask Miss Emma about why him then saying the next few words that do actually surprise her. Asking her, let's say, why she dyes her hair, which nobody knew. Now, her eyes do somewhat widen about this, and she's kind of confused, trying to play off the question. However, Midoriya, he has also discovered one of his other abilities, and the two actually do go back to looking in his head with their powers. Now, they find that he also does possess clairvoyance. They mistook it for a different ability. Surprise, surprise. This is strange. So, they also do need to nurture this ability. This boy is crazy. Now, Charles, he is simply going to try and find Cerebro. And he needs to make contact with somebody. Somebody across the world. Now, he does do so, as we do actually cut to an island, somewhere off the coast of Africa. As somebody, he actually does take off a metal helmet and sit down in a chair, as he could feel the call. And he was actually told that his machine, it was somewhat going haywire, or it was making a strange noise. Now, the man sits back in the chair, as he puts the helmet on his head. And we currently go to two men standing out in a large open field. And both those two men do begin to actually walk towards each other. Before, there they stand, on the middle ground. And they do begin a conversation. Now, Charles Xavier, he goes on talking about something. And he's talking with Magneto, a old-time friend of his. The two don't have a whole lot of time to catch up. In fact, he was already going to talk to him anyways. And he's sorry to bother him again like this. But he believes that he has found it. He believes he has found the Phoenix. Now, Magneto, he's shocked to hear this. Charles must be joking, right? The Phoenix? That's not possible. It's simply a myth. It doesn't exist. It's just a nightmare Charles had. Even then, what is he talking about? He said once he already found it. It can't happen twice. Now, Charles does go on talking. He found it within a boy in Japan by the name of Izuku Midoriya. He is good-willed, good-intentioned, and somewhat pure-hearted. However, he has difficulty controlling his abilities. And that's whenever a more primal nature does begin to manifest. He could hear the Phoenix scream in his head. Now, he does go on asking, well, Magneto, if he would be willing to help him. Put aside their differences and let the boy be at Genosha. To be around the other 16 million mutants. Now, this is quite surprising. And Charles does actually try and negotiate with Magneto. And the two do somewhat argue for a while, before they will eventually come to an agreement on something. Now, we do not know their terms on this agreement. However, let's cut back to Midoriya, who is currently trying to use his abilities. Now, he is simply just standing there, and he's floating in the middle of a field. As so is Miss Emma and Jean Grey, as they are all trying to focus and somewhat meditate. Now, Midoriya just finds this to be quite odd, and he's unsure of what he should be doing, as he is brought to the very same field Charles and Magneto were on. Now, he simply just does begin to look around, and ask what this place is. And they do go on to talk about it. Well, the best way to describe it to Midoriya, it's a manifestation of his mental mind, his current mental state, what it is. And it's quite simple. The best way for your mind to interpret it, like this: a field open and full of life. The grass is green, trees are growing, plants are growing. And if you listen closely, you're hearing birds and squirrels, along with crickets. Now, he's quite surprised by all this. And he's very shocked, as they also do then go into talking about it. Midoriya's abilities. They're quite powerful, and they are going to be in charge of teaching these abilities, along with Charles. And they actually do want Midoriya to try releasing his own power. Here. Here it should be safe. Now, Midoriya, he is kind of confused. If this is basically what his mind state looks like, can't he hurt it by using his powers here? Both of them looking at each other, and saying in unison, no. In fact, that's not how this works. Your mind state can only be damaged through your experiences. And, well, not physically. In fact, if they wanted to, they can simply just, both one of them bring up their hands, and snapping their fingers, as a large amount of force is pushed off in one direction, and Midoriya can see the damage it completely caused, as they go on stating that they are perfectly fine. Now, this does still surprise Midoriya, as he is treating like this. However, we do have the Void. While Midoriya is training and going through all of this, what is currently happening next? As he's using his power here, throwing blasts in different directions, and actually having his power somewhat overflow. He feels like he went above his previous level. He got stronger. He can feel it. Him surprised, turning to look around, and smiling. His smile quickly somewhat disappearing, as he sees someone standing behind those two. And he's confused, as he does go to open his mouth. Now, back in the real world, there is psychic backlash, and these three do get sent flying away from each other again. Now, This was quite surprising, and nobody expected it. Emma and Jean being sent flying away at great speeds and being buried in the dirt. While Midoriya, he was also sent flying, and he was actually laying there on the ground. And you can tell that he was actually a bit more hurt by all of this, as he does actually go to sit back up and look around before getting back on his feet, and somewhat actually almost falling over whenever he does. Now, a young boy does come running up to him and ask him if he's alright. This being whenever Nightcrawler does also poof in and ask Midoriya if he's okay. Now, they actually do go to help Midoriya go see the doctor. His nose is bleeding a lot. And we actually do have Emma and Jean who do get checked in on by some other X-Men. Whatever just happened, it was intense. They don't know what that was. All of a sudden, something just said no. And they were forced out. They were forced out of this boy's mind. They don't know if he's already at that level of using his telepathic abilities. Is he able to block off their connection? That's not possible. It takes months and months and months to develop psychic barriers. Magneto can't do that, so he uses a metal helmet. But this boy did it in an instant? It's insane. No. Them deciding that they need to tell Charles about this. Now, with that being said, they go to do that. As Charles, he actually does go to pull his helmet off of his head. And he actually does take a sigh of relief. Now, these two do inform Charles about what happens, none of them having to speak a single word from their mouths. Now, they do all find this to be quite fascinating, and Charles does actually inform them about what is going to be happening. Within the next year or so, Midoriya will be spending some time over in Genosha. He does want to bring this idea up to his family, and of course take them there, just so that they do have some relatively good amount of trust in him, and somewhat so Midoriya can experience being around other mutants. This house here that they have, it's somewhat small, yes. However, there's not enough mutants in this area. After they moved the house overseas because of its previous destruction, it does seem like mutants just stopped coming around. Most of them already do reside on Genosha anyways, so this could be a good experience for the young man. Now then, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing night. I will catch you guys in the next part.